Hey, welcome to the channel. This is the first video on here. My name's Guy. I'm a guitar player from the UK and I make my living playing a lot of gigs, mainly functions, lots of weddings, corporate events, that kind of thing. I play the kind of gigs that you probably also play yourself, so I just thought it might be fun just to talk about that kind of thing and look at things like guitar equipment, guitars, pedals and effects units, etc. in the context of places that you might actually use them, places that you might actually see them. So that might be weddings, as I say, corporate events, it could be pub gigs, all that kind of stuff, or even just like in your bedroom, because I mean, I do a lot of that as well, like we all do. This video is going to be about the rig that I take on the road with me to play functions in 2025. I wanted to make this video because what I see a lot in the venues that I play in all around the country is increasingly there's a real push towards sound limiters. And for those of you who don't know what a sound limiter is, essentially it's a device installed in the actual venue that you play in, which in some way limits the volume that your band can play at. Some of them are directly connected to the power supply in the room. If you trip the meter, if you go too loud, it actually just cuts the power to the whole room, PA, the stage, the whole thing. So imagine being at a wedding and everyone's had a party, having a good time, and then you forgot to watch the meter and you trip the thing and the whole room goes literally goes dark. It can be pretty hectic. The other type that I've seen quite a lot is actually literally a limiter, whereby you have to use their inbuilt system and the system itself is capped, it is limited at a certain level. The louder you try to go through the PA, the more you push into this sort of brick wall limiter, and it just squashes and flattens everything out, and so you never actually get louder after a certain point. So the reason I think this is an important thing to talk about is because the reality of being a guitar player in a gigging sense these days I think is changing quite a bit, and I think more and more of these venues now are putting in sound limiters. I think it's now sort of stranger to find a venue which doesn't have sound limitations in it. This is my cat. His name is Leo, but we call him Shabu, and he wants to go. He's probably been making a few appearances, no doubt. So given that we have these kind of limitations in venues, it's good to be aware of the type of gear that you can use as a guitar player to still play the gigs and enjoy yourself. So I want the audience to have a great time, but I also really want to enjoy the gigs I'm doing and ultimately the work I'm doing. And that basically brings me on to solutions that are not involving amps. So obviously that's like modelers and digital effects units. The one that I use, I have arrived at in the last couple of years, and that's the Quad Cortex by Neural DSP. Before that I was using the HX Stomp by Line 6. My board's gone through quite a few different iterations even with the Quad Cortex, but right now I have the Quad Cortex on a pedal train classic GAR with the HX Stomp also on the board, because I've found that although the Quad Cortex is really exceptional, does all the things I really want it to do, Line 6 having been around for a lot longer, they've kind of just got all the weird stuff that Neural DSP haven't really thought of putting in the unit yet. So it's great having the Stomp on the board, because it's like a Swiss Army knife. So if I'm ever like, you know what, I want to stick something kind of weird going on, like I don't know, like a load of ring mods and synths and pitch shifting stuff, I can just do that. And using the Quad Cortex's routing capabilities, I can blend that back in with my normal signals and stuff. So it's really cool. It's all controlled via MIDI via the Morningstar MC6 Mark II, which, if you don't know Morningstar gear, it's unbelievable. Their value to the customer is just absolutely outrageous. Their devices are really easy to use for something which is so complex. I think whatever you're using, it needs to be, on the whole, in some ways intuitive, but then if there's more depth under the hood, that's always a plus. The idea with this board is I want to be able to cover as many bases as I can, and that will evolve over time. So I know with the Quad Cortex and the Stomp together, I've got those things absolutely nailed down. It's probably a bit overkill really, but that's kind of the fun of it really, isn't it? So here you've got the Morningstar MC6. This is the MIDI controller. MIDI information comes out of that cable which is going around under here. It's not the tidiest bit because I actually haven't bought the cable I need to make it super tidy, but the rest of it's reasonably good. And that's going to go. Now this board is not 100% complete yet, hence this cable, which is only a temporary stopgap for the other cable that I'm going to get, which is more like the Boss one down here, which I will then run underneath. But this is the MIDI controller, controls the preset switching on the Quad Cortex and also preset switching on the HX Stomp. But essentially on the Quad Cortex, this is the preset view, so I can see what different blocks I'm using. So this is a compressor, there's a gain reduction meter there, level compressor, all that kind of stuff. So I basically build my preset how you would with any other modeler, I suppose. The Quad Cortex has got a really good user interface and really good EQ features. So that's the EQ I've got going on at the moment. Some of these will actually change depending on, yeah, there you go. So when I hit G, switch G is my overdrive, it's my sort of distortion rhythm. You can see the EQ changes. Let's talk about the gig view. So if I start off here, so normally with my Quad Cortex, I've got the 8 scenes arranged where the first 4 are all clean. The bottom 2 down here being the ones I use most. I want those on the most easily reachable foot switch. So when I'm gigging live and I just need to grab a clean sound, I can just click the bottom 2. So even though these are E and F, not A and B, this is basically the default. This is the clean. And then the next one over is clean boost. Up here, you've got the blue patches, the blue boxes. These ones are clean wet, which is basically a ambient wet reverb delay version of this, the original clean sound. And the same with this clean wetter. It's wetter, but it's also the boost. So it's a wetter and boosted clean. And then you go into switch G down here. This is my drive rhythm. Again, it's one of my like stock sounds I just need to grab whenever I need it. So I've got it on the bottom tier here, which is closer to where my foot would be when I'm pressing. And then up here, this is always going to be a wet version of this drive. So this is kind of how I structure all my presets. I always think about it in this kind of way. Again, another one I always need to grab at short notice. So this is my solo patch, and normally it builds on the foundation from the drive, but will add something else. So it might add a bit of compression on the front end, or it might add an extra overdrive pedal, etc. So that's that. And then this one, slot D, this one here, the top right hand one, I always reserve that for like a wild card. So you can see at the moment I've got a preset called QC Loop Monster, and that is because if I look in here, I've got two ring mods working, one on the left, one on the right, and they're split and then run through an overdrive into a sort of a high cut at about 11 or 12k into a flanger, and then the retro wheel, which is like a tape emulation, and that comes back into the quad cortex. So you can see here, take a split here, and it comes down like this, and then it goes out with the effects loop, which is this, comes into the Stomp, comes back in here in the effects loop return in stereo, and then I have some EQs on here just to tame some of the sounds because it's pretty gnarly. And then basically on the output here, this either is muted or not. So on switch D, this mute is off, but for example, there you go, when it turns red it's muted. So on my normal overdrive sounds and actually all my other sounds, I don't want the sound from the HX Stomp coming into my patch at all. But on switch D, when I want it to be just like real gnarly, nasty sounding, that comes back in. So yeah, kind of fun. The other thing that's kind of cool here is I've set this up so I've got my basic patch, I've got old vibes, which is basically like handles on my Motown, my disco-y stuff, so it's just like a little bit less modern. The basic one is a little bit more 80s vibe, and the modern one is well, things are just wetter and more extreme, I think you'd probably say. On here I also have quick access to the tuner, which I've set, and the gig view, which this controls switching between gig view here and preset editing view. I've got this button here set up as a MIDI clock send, so I can send MIDI clock to this and this. So for example, if I just tap it on, you might be able to see there the numbers change and it shows me, so at the moment that's 126 beats per minute. The lights have gone blue, which means they're both receiving MIDI clock. You probably can't see that light so well. So that's basically an overview of what this board is doing. So the guitar that I'm using this year is this Fender Strat. It's a 75th anniversary. It's a Player Plus, made in Mexico. It didn't originally have the gold anodized pickup on it. Actually, originally it had tortoiseshell on the back, but I changed that this season. I just wanted a bit of a fresh look. Originally it had on this push-pull, it had the David Gilmour pickup switching where it blends the single coil back in with the neck pickup for sort of a really fat sound, but I found that I didn't use that at all. And what I really wanted on this guitar was added versatility. I do like humbuckers and I do like single coils, and I find that like it's quite hard to play something like Nile Rodgers on a humbucker, but I didn't really get enough juice on the bridge pickup out of the single coil for my taste. So I got a Seymour Duncan Little 59 installed in the bridge on here, and it still allows me to get that sort of fun, phasey, quacky sound in the in-between position. And this is now a coil tap for the humbucker, so it then acts as a single coil, which is awesome. I got like a really versatile range of tones I can get out of that, which is wicked. It's got the really like nice smooth bridge. I don't know exactly which bridge this is, to be honest, but it's one that's normally found on the higher end models. I'm sure a lot of you guys will probably know better than me. Locking tuners, which I think actually for me these days is a must. They just make changing strings when you're on a gig, like if you're in the middle of a song and you break a string, it's just so simple and just like really reliable. It just plays really well. So this went from being like a guitar that I liked but I found the pickups underwhelming, to a guitar that I basically exclusively play now. The Strat purists probably not so happy about the humbucker in the bridge here, but oh well, it sounds amazing. So I guess that's really it for this video. In summary, basically, these days with gigs, it seems to me that there are a lot of venues which are installing these sound limitation devices in, which is kind of making it hard to play with like a big loud amp, especially when you've already got drummers on stage. But luckily these days we are really blessed with an amazing array of different gear choices and ways that we can run our guitars into the PA and still have a great sound. And actually I would say like one of the things that's super cool is you can have a similar or the same sound in your bedroom as you do live and vice versa. So it really is like taking the thing that you craft all that time and spend so much time making and taking it out into the real world so other people can hear it too. Whereas I always found that was harder living in just like a normal house with an amp, you know, there was only so loud you could push it. So it's kind of hard to get consistency in terms of how you're making your sound. What sort of rig do you guys run? I'd love to hear your choices of gear, things that you've tried, stuff that you got on with, anything you didn't get on with. Yeah, it's always interesting to hear different people's approaches. I've definitely arrived at this to suit my own needs, but that won't necessarily be what works for you. But yeah, let me know down in the comments what are your thoughts on the gear, and do subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I'm planning on making a bunch more videos. Anyway, thanks for watching.